ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतस्य सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं। नमो ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादि पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So very happy to welcome all of you to this session of the Srimad Bhagavatam. By Krishna's grace and mercy of Guru Gauranga, we hope to have an overview of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is called the Mahapurana, and Srimad Bhagavatam has a total of 12 cantos, 18,000 shlokas in those 12 cantos, 335 chapters. So, it is like a very huge literature, but of course there are Puranas that are bigger than the Srimad Bhagavatam. There is Mahabharata also having 24,000 shlokas. So, 18,000 shlokas as far as a Purana is concerned is not a very great number, and you may or may not believe, but there are a lot of Bhagavata speakers in India who know all these 18,000 shlokas by heart. So, nothing is impossible in the world. Now, it is a very happy occasion to be discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, because Srimad Bhagavatam is a Rasa Grantha. Srimad Bhagavatam is Rasamalayam. That means in the Srimad Bhagavatam there is rasa, that means there is some sweet mellows, relationships that the hearer can develop with the Supreme Lord. So that is the greatness of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is Rasamalayam, it is Rasagrantha, and very importantly, Srimad Bhagavatam is something that is meant for the Bhakta. Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to be relished among the company of Bhaktas in Sadhu Sangha, in Sat Sangha, by Bhaktas. So, this is a very Bhakti focused literature. We must understand that. Srimad Bhagavatam. When we speak Bhagavad Gita, there is a lot of Jnana and Vijnana in Bhagavad Gita. A lot of it. And of course, Bhakti is the central theme, but in Bhagavad Gita it is mostly theory. And when we move to Srimad Bhagavatam, it is practical. How do you practice that theory? That is what we learn in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is Amala Puranam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that Srimad Bhagavatam is Amala Puranam because there is no, Mala means dirt, Amala means no dirt. That means Srimad Bhagavatam subject matter is basically Bhagavan, Bhakta and Bhakti. This is the central theme of Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, as I said, Bhakti is the central theme. But this relationship between Bhagavan, Bhakta through Bhakti, that is not elaborated to such an extent in the Bhagavad Gita, which gets elaborated to its complete extent in the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. So as I said, 12 cantos, 18,000 shlokas, very huge literature, and our humble effort is to first try and go through the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The first canto is basically the introductory portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but it also prepares one to understand Srimad Bhagavatam completely. Because in the second canto, when we move on, there we will find the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. But in the first canto, we will find some very, very important instructions that will actually prepare us to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam as a whole. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is glorified by all great devotees of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is something that bhaktas relish to speak and bhaktas relish to hear. In the whole cosmic manifestation, right at the bottom above the Karana Samudra, Ananta Shesha is actually eternally speaking Srimad Bhagavatam to the Chatushanas, the four Kumaras, the Sanakadis they are called, Sanaka, Sanatana, Sananda, Sanat Kumara. These four are the first sons of Brahma who at the age of 5 stopped growing, became brahmacharis and engaged themselves in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is one narration of Srimad Bhagavatam. Like that we will find several narrations of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam has direct information about Lord Sri Krishna that is not found anywhere else. So, this is another important aspect of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there is something more important about Srimad Bhagavatam. It is about the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The author of the Srimad Bhagavatam, as you all know, is Vedavyasa. Krishna Dvaipayana is his name. Vyasa means editor. Vedavyasa means one who edited the Vedas. So that is actually like a title. His name is Krishna Dvaipayana. He is born to Parashara Muni and Satyavati. That is his parents. He was born on a dweep. That is why he is called Dvaipayana. And his father is Parashara. Parashara's father is Shakti. Shakti's father is Vasishtha. So there is a great lineage going back. Vasishtha, as we know, is the guru of Ramachandra. So this is the lineage in which Krishna Dvaipayana is coming, and they have all been known as Paropakaris. That means their life is dedicated to doing good for others. And what is the ultimate good that one can do to others? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the ultimate good that we can do for somebody else is to stop his problem of birth and death. All other problems as well as their solutions are temporary. Your problem of hunger, that is temporary. And your solution to that is temporary. How long will you feed a hungry man? Same like that, any material problem you take and a material solution to that, you will find the temporal nature of both. Whereas, the actual problem that we are all facing is the Janana Marana Chakra. Punarapi Jananam, Puranapi Maranam, Punarapi Jadare Jagade Shayanam. This is Adi Shankara's, in Bhaja Govindam. Bhagavad-pad Shankaracharya says this. So, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam is the biggest problem that we are having. That is the one which requires solution. And whoever is giving a solution to that is the real para upakari. That is real paropakar. So, that is why Vyasa, Vasishta, Parashara, they are all known as the greatest paropakaris, because these great sages actually show us the way out of this tabernacle called this material body and this process called repeated birth and death, over which we have no control. Okay, so this is the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And what is the circumstances under which he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam? Although there is a complete section in the first canto where this is spoken in detail, I will just give you just an outline as an introduction today, because we are starting these sessions. This is something that must be mentioned. So, Vyasa, he codified the Vedas. The Veda was originally one. Then Vyasa divided it, Rig, Sama, Yajur, Evacha, which is called the Atharva. So, he divided the Vedic literature, gave it to different disciples of his, and they started studying that and writing commentaries, etc., etc., etc. So, they started developing it. Then Vyasa, he wrote the Vedanta Sutra, or what is called the Brahma Sutras or the Badarayana Sutras. He wrote these sutras. Sutra itself means aphorism. It means it's a sutra. Means it's like a tricky word, group of words. So Vedanta Sutra is like that. That is the Anta of Veda. That is why it is called Vedanta. Because Vyasa wrote this, the Vedic literature that he divided and split and, arranged it in so many different ways. It is a huge body. And it consists of 95% of karmakandic activities, which means action, result, action, result. That kind of stuff is more than 90% of the Vedas. So, people who approach the Vedas, they get confused. Actually, what is the ultimate goal in the Vedas? Very difficult to identify. So, what he did, he wrote Vedanta Sutra to show that this is the ultimate goal. Although there is so much subject matter included within this, this is the final subject matter. Like that, he did that, Vedanta Sutra. And then he also wrote the Puranas. There are a total of 18 Puranas, Sattvic Puranas, Rajasika Puranas, Tamasika Puranas. Means the Purana by itself is not Sattvic, Rajasic or Tamasic. Puranas that will appeal to the Tamoguna Pradhani people. Puranas that will appeal to the Rajoguna people. Puranas that will appeal to the Sattvaguna people. Like the Vishnu Puran, the Padma Puran, Sattvaguna Puranas. Like if you take the Brahmanda Purana, Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Rajoguna Puranas. Like if you take Skanda Purana, Tamoguna Purana. So, like that, Puranas were written by Vyasa Maharshi. And in each Purana, whichever deity he was concentrating on, he glorified that deity in that particular Purana. Okay? And then after doing all these things, Vyasa, he felt a sense of incompleteness. He felt something is lacking somewhere. He is missing something. So, because Vyasa was missing something, Hare Krishna. Because Vyasa was missing something, he was feeling, what should I do? How can I solve this problem? And at that time, his guru, Narada Muni, comes there. For Vyasa also there is a guru, and Narada Muni is in the position of guru for all these great gurus actually. He is also son of Brahma. And so Narada Muni comes and inquires to Vyasa, and he says that I am not happy. So the Narada Muni says, you are not happy because although you have done all these things and gotten the name Vedavyasa and everything, so much of service you have already done, but something that is most important you have not done. Something that is most important you have missed out. And what is that? You did not glorify the Supreme Lord. You did not fully explain the Leelas of the Supreme Lord Krishna. That is what is missing. So, accordingly, receiving such an instruction from Narada Muni, Vyasa wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. You see? So, Srimad Bhagavatam is no ordinary literature. Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of the entire Vedic literature in one sense. It is also Vyasa's commentary of the Vedanta Sutra. The Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the shloka Janmadhyasya yatho anvayat itaratah charte shabhijna swarat. This is how Srimad Bhagavatam begins. And this Janmadhyasya yatha is a sutra from the Brahma Sutra. So, from this we get the indication that this is actually a commentary by the author. So, Vedanta Sutra, as I said, is full of aphorisms, very difficult to decipher, and all great acharyas have written tika, commentaries, bhashyas for the Brahma Sutra. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is a bhashyam for the Vedanta Sutra written by the author only. So, who has the best idea of Vedanta Sutra? Among all the acharyas, Vyasa has the best idea about Vedanta Sutra. Why? He wrote it. So, he is writing a commentary for that. So, would that be the most authentic one or not? So, accordingly, Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as the commentary of the Vedanta Sutra. So, we don't have to worry that I don't know enough Sanskrit and the grammar and the logic and the Nirukti and the Jyotish and the Chandas to understand Vedanta Sutra. Don't worry about it. Simply by approaching the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can get that essence of the Vedanta Sutra. So, this is another aspect of the Srimad Bhagavata Mahapurana. And Srimad Bhagavatam has so many glories. Jiva Goswami, one of the Shat Goswamis of Vrindavan, he speaks about the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jiva Goswami says, Veda Purana Kavyam cha Prabhur Mitram Priyevacha Bodhayantihi Prahus Trivrit Bhagavatam Punaha. Jiva Goswami says, it is said that the Vedas instruct like a master, the Puranas instruct like a friend, and the poetic works instruct like a lover. But the Srimad Bhagavatam does all the three. You see? So, Vedas are like master, instructions come master to student. Puranas, in nature, they will instruct you like a friend. Friendly advice is given through Puranas. And poetic works, all the great poetry is written by the great acharyas, they will give instructions like a lover. Means in very sweet words, we will get instructions. But Jiva Goswami Pad says, Srimad Bhagavatam does all these three things together. So, it is a Kavya, it is a Purana, it is also equivalent to Veda because it is written by Vedavyasa. And Lord Shiva is another great personality who knows about the Srimad Bhagavatam. Mahadev is another great authority on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he is constantly engaged in speaking and hearing the Bhagavat Katha. So, Lord Shiva speaks about the Srimad Bhagavatam like this. He says, Aham vedmi sukho veti, vyaso veti na vetiva, bhaktya bhagavatam graahyam, na buddhya, na cha tikaya. This is Lord Shiva speaking about the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Shiva says, I know, aham vedmi, I know. Shuko veti, Shuka Rishi, the son of Vyasa, he also knows. And Vyasa veti na vetiva, Vyasa may or may not know the Srimad Bhagavatam. On the whole, Srimad Bhagavatam, the spotless Purana, can be learned only through devotional service. It cannot be understood by material intelligence, speculative methods, or imaginary commentaries. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, if you want to understand, you must engage in devotional service. So, my request to all the listeners is that in order to try and understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, all of us should engage ourselves in some devotional service. As I have previously said, Srila Prabhupada uses the word devotional service. Other authors, other speakers, you will hear them using the word devotion or bhakti as standalone. But our Paramacharya Prabhupada has taught us that you cannot separate service from devotion. That means devotion can be expressed only through some kind of service. Because basically devotion means love. Devotion actually means love. And how do you express love? You can express love only by doing something for the loved one. So, to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the greatest literature that will give us understanding about Krishna, for that we must all do some loving service to Krishna. And the simplest loving service that we can do for Krishna is to chant his holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti Shodashakam Namnam Kali Kalmashanasanam. This is told in the Kalisantarana Upanishad that these 16 names are actually meant as Kali Kalmasha Nasanam. Because this is Kali Yuga, as you all know, there are 4 yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. And among these 4 yugas, Kali Yuga is the most degraded yuga. We will see in detail as we move into the Srimad Bhagavatam. But suffice to say that Kali Yuga is the most challenging yuga, because everything is in the mode of degradation in this yuga. And it is very difficult to engage in spiritual activities in one sense, because in Kali Yuga, everything around us is designed in a way that will make us forget God. You know, you get out on the road and every poster that you see is something that nothing reminds you of God. Everything will be some decadent, some nonsensical stuff we will find all around us. Very difficult to think of, remember and serve God. And Srila Prabhupada has taught us that as Jivatma, our nature is to serve. Serve with love, serve with affection, serve with a sense of propriety. Let there be. Doesn't matter. Okay? But some kind of service, we all have a tendency for it. Tendency to serve. And Prabhupada, very interestingly, he told us that if you don't serve God, you will end up serving dog. This is Prabhupada's very famous words. Prabhupada had a habit of going on morning walks with his students, with his shishyas. And during their morning walks in different cities in America, when Srila Prabhupada was there, or even in Calcutta or Bombay, anywhere Prabhupada used to be, whether it is Vrindavan or Sridham Mayapur or anywhere he went, morning walk is a must. And while walking, Prabhupada would be speaking. And all those subjects will be very relevant to what he sees on his walk, but everything will have a Vedic instruction. Even in that comment that Prabhupada used to make, there will be a Vedic instruction. So, Prabhupada would watch these people walking their dogs, and Prabhupada would say that the man holding the leash, he thinks he is the master. But the dog knows that the dog is the master, because when the dog wants to pass number 1, the man has to stop. When the dog wants to pass number 2, the man has to stop. So who is the boss? Who is the master? So Prabhupada says, because they have tendency to serve somebody, and they have chosen, instead of serving God, to serve dog. And Prabhupada used to feel so much anukampa. He used to feel so much sympathy for these people. He used to say, see how they are wasting their lives. So, some kind of loving service to Krishna we must do, because giving our love to someone, that comes naturally to all of us. Okay? But the problem currently is that we are depositing that love in all and sundry things, and you don't get it back. All our love and affection are invested into businesses that will go broke. The return that we are expecting, we will not get. So we will become frustrated. So we have to utilize our time to serve Krishna with love. Preeti Purvakam. Bhajatam Preeti Purvakam. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So with Preeti, with love, we must learn to do something for Krishna. And in Kali Yuga, because other things are very difficult, like in Satya Yuga, they would have an ayu of, say, 1 lakh years, and they can sit and do tapas for 50, 60, 70,000 years continuously. They can sit without eating, without drinking, they can even stay for 6 months only taking breath. So they had all those kinds of perfections. Come to Treta Yuga, they could do wonderful yajnas, fire sacrifices, and please Vishnu. In Dwapara Yuga, they could do wonderful temple worship and please the Supreme Lord. In Kali Yuga, none of these things are possible in a wonderful way. Because already we have very little time, and already our level of intelligence is very degraded. Now when you will hear this, you may think that this man is talking simply too much nonsense. Of course, our intelligence is very good. But when we look at Bhagavad Gita, when we look at Bhagavatam, we will know how dull our intelligence is. Simply understanding things related to matter and earning a livelihood and doing it in a very great way, that does not actually show our intelligence at all. Real intelligence is required to get out of this process of birth and death. And that will come when we start serving Krishna. And Srimad Bhagavatam is introducing this Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, to the hearer. You see, this is Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Lord Shiva says that I know the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shuka Brahma Rishi, Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasa, he knows the Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasa may or may not know. This is Lord Shiva's opinion. Huh? Be very careful. And then he says that Bhaktya Bhagavatam Grihyaam na buddhya na cha tikaya. That is not by some intellectual explanation, not by making up some analysis, you will not understand. Simply by bhakti only you will understand. So, then the question automatically comes. I am coming to this because this Shukadeva Goswami is a very important personality for us. Okay? Vyasa's son is a very important personality in the context of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why I am taking this. So, why is Lord Shiva saying that he knows? Of course he knows, because he is very, very close to the Supreme Personality and totally engaged in complete trance. Mahadev goes into complete trance while speaking and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Lord Shiva, if you notice, he wears a garland of skulls. So many skulls are there on a garland that Lord Shiva is wearing. So one day, Parvati Devi will ask Lord Shiva that, oh my dear husband, why are you wearing this garland of skulls? So Lord Shiva will tell her, I am wearing this garland of skulls because I love you so much. You see, this is some different level of love, okay? Very difficult for us to understand. Because if you wear a garland of skull and your wife asks you, why are you wearing it? And you tell her that because I love you, she is going to be completely spooked. Okay? But this is another level of husband and wife, Shiva and Parvati. They are the perfect husband and wife, That is why all the unmarried girls will worship Parvati to get a husband like Lord Shiva. He's supposed to be the best husband. Don't ask me how. Anyway, that's how it is. So, Parvati Devi will ask him, why? How does this skull garland represent your love for me? So, Lord Shiva says that you have gone through many, many births, and every time you die, because I love you so much, I take your skull and add it to my garland, string it around my neck. So then Parvati is astonished. She says, so I have died so many times and you? Shiva says, no, I have no death. Why? Because I keep on hearing and chanting the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because I keep hearing, I keep chanting, I keep speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this actually gives amaratvam, means deathlessness. So Parvati Devi says, if that is the case, then why should I also die again and again? You tell me this Srimad Bhagavatam, I will completely sit and listen to it, and then I will also have amaratvam, so I don't have to every time die and your garland will become too long, like that. So then Lord Shiva will start speaking the Bhagavat Katha to Parvati Devi. And the understanding is between Lord Shiva and Parvati Devi is that Lord Shiva tells her that as I start speaking, I close my eyes and then I am completely in that realm, completely absorbed in the Katha, and then I am going to speak. So I will be completely in trance, I won't open my eyes, but you have to give me an indication that you are hearing. Okay? So Parvati Devi will say, okay, I will always keep making that sound, as if somebody is listening. So she says, I will make that humming sound so that you can continue speaking. Then you know that, I am there, I am listening to you. Lord Shiva says, okay. And then Lord Shiva starts speaking, and within few minutes, Lord Shiva has already entered the trance, completely in that meditative dhyana state, and then he is speaking about Krishna like that. Completely in transcendental joy, Lord Shiva speaks the Srimad Bhagavatam to Parvati Devi. Parvati Devi, she listens for a long time, okay, and then she starts feeling sleepy. I think most of us will identify with this, We are almost 40 minutes into this class, so I don't know how many of you are already having sleepy eyelids. So, for Parvati Devi also similarly it happened. She went off to sleep, sitting and sleeping. This also we are very good at doing. Whenever there is a Bhagavad Katha going on, you will find, people sitting and sleeping. So while Parvati Devi was sleeping, there was somebody else making this humming sound. Okay? And that humming sound was coming from a shuka. In Sanskrit, shuka means parrot. So in a nearby tree, a parrot was sitting, and that parrot was also hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Shiva was speaking. And this parrot was going on, Parrot is actually enjoying the Srimad Bhagavatam more than Parvati Devi. When Lord Shiva started speaking this Srimad Bhagavatam, he had also told Parvati Devi one more thing, that I am speaking this only for you. I don't want anybody else to listen to this. You see, because Srimad Bhagavatam is meant only for the rasikas, only for such people with pure hearts, they can only absorb this Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and Lord Shiva is a very elevated speaker, so he doesn't want to speak to all and sundry. So, he has made this precondition before starting to speak. But now what is happening? The intended attendee or the listener has gone to sleep and somebody else is happily listening. And went on speaking like this, and suddenly Lord Shiva's meditation broke for some reason. Okay? For some reason his meditation broke. And he opened his eyes. So immediately what does he see? He sees Parvati Devi sitting in front and nicely dozing off. But sound is coming. Sound is coming. So Lord Shiva is looking around and he saw one parrot sitting there and humming nicely. So immediately Lord Shiva got angry. Lord Shiva is known for two things, Kshipra Prasadi and Kshipra Kopi. That means very quickly he'll become pleased, very quickly he'll become angry also. So he got very angry, very quickly he got angry and he got up from his seat, and he is going towards the parrot because he tells the parrot, you are not qualified to listen to this. So why did you listen to this? So immediately the parrot will start flying away in fear and Lord Shiva will chase after the parrot. The parrot will go flying straight into Vyasa Maharshi's ashram. So when the parrot goes to Vyasa Maharshi's ashram, there Vyasa Maharshi is speaking again Bhagavad Katha to his wife. And Vyasa Maharshi's wife is in astonishment, her mouth is wide open. She is listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this parrot straight shoots right into her mouth and goes inside her. Okay. So Lord Shiva will come running to Vyasa Maharshi's ashram. So immediately Vyasadev, he will give asana to Lord Shiva and ask him, why have you come to my ashram like that? After offering all respects. So Lord Shiva says that, this somebody who is not qualified to hear Srimad Bhagavatam has heard from me. So I came to finish him off. So Vyasa will smile and say, it's all your Leela. How you can say that you want to kill the parrot? Because parrot already got Amaratvam by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam from your lotus mouth. You have explained the Bhagavatam, he has heard it, now who can kill him? Like that. So Lord Shiva also very happily he goes back. And it is this parrot who is born as Vyasa's son. His name is Shukadeva. And his history is also very wonderful, that we will discuss when we come to that portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, why is Shukadeva a very important person for us in our context of studying the Srimad Bhagavatam? Now, I already told you that, under the Karana Samudra, Ananta Shesha, who is holding up the entire creation, sitting there, he is speaking to the Kumaras, the Bhagavatam. So, this Bhagavatam is something that is Katha of Bhagavan, that is Bhagavata Katha of Krishna. This goes on at various realms in Ananta Kodi Brahmandas, it is going on. Different speakers speaking to different listeners. The Srimad Bhagavatam that we are discussing has a certain context, which we already said that Vyasa wrote it down, that I am speaking, now we are speaking about this present day of Brahma, when the Dwapara Yuga, that is before the Kali Yuga, where this whole thing is happening. Okay. So, now we will cut to another history. Lord Krishna, he appeared in Dwapara Yuga. Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan appeared in the Vrishni Vamsha, and he was a great friend of the Kuru Vamsha, Pandavas, the sons of Pandu, and we saw how he actually completely designed the Kurukshetra war in such a way that Yudhishthira, with the help of Arjuna, will become victorious and they will rule Hastinapura. Yudhishthira becomes Chakravarti, and how Krishna will oversee this whole thing, installation of the Pandavas on the throne, then Krishna going back to Dwaraka, and then Krishna will leave back to his dham, and then Pandavas will leave because their only descendant is their grandson, Arjuna's grandson, that is Abhimanyu's son, Uttara's son. His name is Parikshit. He is the last of the great kings in that lineage. Of course, there is Janamejaya after him, but he is not as glorified as Parikshit. So, Parikshit is the son of Uttara, the wife of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu is the son of Arjuna. So, it is this Parikshit, after the Pandavas, they leave. Parikshit is given the role of the Chakravarti, the emperor, to rule. And he is a wonderful devotee from childbirth. That also we will see as we move into the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Parikshit is ruling the country very nicely. And one day, Parikshit will go on hunting. The Kshatriyas are allowed to go to the forest and hunt wild animals, because that is how they increase their shaurya. Shaurya means their valor for war, So they will chase and they will shoot arrows on wild animals and kill them and things like that. So one day he is going, and he has gone deep into the forest, and he was hunting various animals, and then he felt thirsty, and so he goes to a Muni's ashram. There is this Rishi named Samika. So he goes to his Samika Rishi's ashram, and he will request the Rishi that I am very thirsty, can I have some water to drink? So at this time, Samika Rishi is deep in meditation, because you go to the forest to meditate, obviously. That is the whole idea of going to the forest. So because he is sitting and meditating, he did not hear the king address him. He did not even see the king, to be frank. Okay. So Parikshit waited for some time. So this Rishi is not replying. So By some arrangement of providence, this is what we call vidhi, no? So some arrangement of providence, he lost his cool, lost his temper. So he saw a dead snake was lying outside the ashram, So he used his bow and picked up the dead snake and put it on the Samika Rishi's neck like a garland, like this, And then he rode off on his horse. So Samika Rishi, even then, he did not know, because he is completely in a deep state of dhyana, did not see. So Parikshit gone. So Samika Rishi had a son called Shringi, a 15-year-old boy. He is also doing Veda Dhyana and assisting his father in the ashrama, of course. So the boy had gone out for some chore and he came back and he saw that somebody has thrown a snake on his father's neck. And he got very angry. So immediately, using his tapas shakti, because he is a Brahmana, he is also engaged in tapas. Using his tapas shakti, he throws a shapam, a curse. He says, whoever has done this in 7 days, he will die of the snake Takshaka's bite. This is Shringi's curse. So who is the recipient of the curse? It is Parikshit Maharaj. So then Samika Rishi will come out of the meditation and then he will understand that his boy has done something very, very stupid, because after all, he said that he is the emperor. He came and he got insulted, so he got angry. It doesn't matter. And we are Brahmanas, we shouldn't be cursing for these small matters. So like that, he will scold his son. But then, the damage is already done. So, Parikshit immediately is alerted about this curse. And now he is given 7 days time to live. In 7 days, he is going to die. Can you imagine being given 7 days notice to die? Just imagine, So, this is a great lesson for all of us. What did Parikshit do? Parikshit went to his palace. He called all the Brahmanas, the wise, great Brahmanas, the rishis, whoever he could assemble, his wise ministers, everyone he called. He told them, I got 7 days to live. I want to know what is the best thing that a man who is destined to die in 7 days, what is the best thing such a man can do? You see, this is real intelligence. He did not think in 7 days, let me enjoy it to the hilt, anyway I am going to die. He didn't think like that. He said, what is the best thing a human being can do when he knows that he is going to die in 7 days? When death is certain, within that time limit, what can I do? So, then they all discuss among themselves, and then they will come to the conclusion, they will tell Parikshit that the most wonderful thing that you can do now at this point in your life is simply hear Bhagavat Katha. Simply hear about Krishna. This is the best thing you can do. So then they are looking for who is the most qualified personality to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam. So then they will all unanimously they will decide that it is going to be Shuka Maharshi, Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva. So accordingly, this scene is now set for the Srimad Bhagavatam. The speaker has been decided as Shuka Maharshi and the listener is Parikshit Maharaj. So this is how the Srimad Bhagavatam that we are going to have an overview. This is how Srimad Bhagavatam gets laid out. And another set of speaker, another set of speaker. There will be so many different sets of speakers as we go through the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will try and understand all the different types of speakers as we enter into the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because today this is an introduction, so I thought I wanted to share this wonderful introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam so that we all get into that mindset to open our hearts and receive this wonderful knowledge of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.